today. For everyone here, how many of you are here for the first time?
Oh, wow.
Amazing. So thank you for making the trip here and joining us. We're going to not only have a wonderful conversation, but to start it off, we're going to tell you a little bit about kind of not only why we do these, but a little bit about this building. When the Chancellor envisioned the Design and Innovation building, it was very intentional that it would be exactly on the spot because right next to the trolley, because historically campuses can be a bit difficult to navigate. We wanted people to have easier access to what we do, and we wanted to invite the community into conversations exactly like this. And we wanted to partner with the community as much as possible in the various programs we do and create a more porous interface. And so the Design and Innovation building actually stands for that. So I'm Greg Horwood. I am the Director of Innovation Design here at the Office of Innovation at UCSD. And the Office of Innovation, think of it as kind of your personal concierge to all things entrepreneurship and innovation related across the campus. We're here to kind of introduce you to the right people, give you access to the right resources, but more importantly, invite you into the conversation so that we can hear from you what's not only important to you, but create a dialogue that's ongoing. So while you will be here in the audience for this conversation, we hope that what this represents is the start of a conversation. This particular series, Innovation at the Edge, we actually started this during COVID as a way of just stimulating conversations that were important to people about where innovation is taking us, how we go just to the edges of innovation and slightly beyond into that area that's a bit uncertain and ambiguous, and have conversations about what do we do when we can't always know the answers? Or what do we do when we're faced with a choice where it's really clear that we don't have enough information to effectively be certain of that decision? And in a lot of our training and education we do here in the Office of Innovation, whether it's in our Essentials of Entrepreneurship course or our workshops, seminars, or in programs like the Talent Foundry, which Christiana will talk a little bit about, we kind of help give people the skills of the future for that. Now, in this Innovation at the Edge, these monthly conversations, we do several of them focused on investment, because one of the most difficult things and the most mysterious aspects of the entrepreneurial cycle is how do you get access to investment? And more importantly, how do you get access to the right kinds of investment that are right for you so you don't waste a lot of time either talking to the wrong people or talking to people. There's an old quote attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt that says, you never give someone the power to say no who really never have the power to say yes. And so we want to make sure that you're making effective choices and decisions on that. And so these kind of conversations with such esteemed experts that Christiana will introduce you to is really, really important as part of that process. One of the programs that we recently have kicked off within the Talent Foundry and within the Office of Innovation is called the Venture Capitalist Program. It's and financial opportunities within that. And so some of the people here represent exactly those kind of conversations. And so we will also invite you to become a part of that program if it makes sense for you. And in the conversation, please, this is a dialogue, so we really want you to ask lots of questions. So after Christiana gets through the first part, facilitating the conversation, we will have the microphone that will roam out into the audience, and we're going to spend a lot of time hearing from you and what important questions you may have. So at this point, I'd like to introduce you to Christiana Russell with the Talent Foundry and the Office of Innovation here. She's also with We the Plug and
Method Wing Consulting.
Exactly. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah.
And
make sure you come in.
signage that he has.
So you're going to see some signage at the back, and also we're going to have cards. They're out in front. I'll bring some inside. These cards are also give you little QR codes where you can learn more about our programs, and you can also easily go to innovation.ucsd.edu to learn more about all of our programs. And please, we hope this will be the beginning of many programs you'll be involved in. So hope to see you all again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Greg. We appreciate it. and for being the visionary behind this series. Again, this is so important that we have these conversations because it allows us to have these intimate experiences and learn about opportunities that not only will help ourselves, but also our community. That's what we want you all to think about, is how can I take this back into the community that you are living and playing in. But before we get started, I want to acknowledge someone who I was beckoning to come up here, but she was like, no, I'm not coming up here. So I'm going to just acknowledge her now. But the reason why I'm standing before you, and because of another program that we have here, focusing on bringing in community founders and diverse founders and understanding the value of that, and that it's not just to check a box, but to ensure that we have a very wide range of voices and startups that are in this ecosystem. And I want to just acknowledge her right now. Gwen, would you please stand up, visiting from Ohio? And I just want you to say some words, but Gwen has been here for 24 years? A lot of years. And I just want to acknowledge you and just have you say something about why this is so important.
I'm really excited that Christiana decided to partner with me a couple of years ago.
2021.
Yeah, while I was in Hawaii for a month, but during that time in Hawaii, we were writing a grant. And so it's like beach in the morning, grant in the afternoon.
And yoga.
Oh, and yoga. And it was something that we really wanted to help the community that we come from to have more access. Because in the years that I've been at UCSD, we've helped a lot of entrepreneurs, but I felt that we needed to help more women and more underrepresented folks. And getting this grant was a way to do that, to at least kick that off. So I'm so excited that things are moving along, and there's another grant that I'm helping them with, but I retired a year ago, but I'm back because kicking and screaming, Greg and Christiana both said, this is an important thing to do. So welcome, and I hope you guys take advantage of all the resources that are here, because the university is 100% behind getting people entrepreneurial and helping the community, and also just the economic development part of it, because San Diego's growing, let's all grow with it. And there's a lot of opportunities, so thanks again.
Thank you. So I'm excited, as I know you all as well are, to get into this panel conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to make a little noise. Hold on. 1 second. There we go. And introduce our panel that so graciously accepted the invitation. I know you all are very busy, so I just want to say thank you for making time to come out tonight. And I'll start to my left. Luis Gutierrez is with Founder First, and I'll have them go into more detail about what they do with their organization. And then we have Oralia Alvarez, who is with Mission Driven. And then we have Julio de Unamuno. Nope, close. Unamuno. I always butcher your last name. I apologize. Who is the executive director at Homelab. So welcome them today. And so I'll start with you, Luis. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do over at Founders First?
Yeah, I'm in charge of found companies that match the criteria that we're looking for to allocate growing capital or working capital. We specialize in certain industries and certain companies. The industry that we're looking for is the tech industries. And the reason is because we have this product, we have a couple products, but our main product is revenue-based financing. And without go with too much explication, the way that you're going to pay this investment is with percentage of your sales. That can go all the way from 2% to 9%, no more than 9%, because we need you to have your cash flow healthy. Because the way the payment is through you revenue, we need your company to have a nice, healthy margin. And the industry to have as better margins are the tech industry, which goes from all the way from 35 to 70. And so I'm in charge to found those companies. Sit down with them, talk to them, and make them presented to the investment committee, and hopefully approval and get the cash.
Excellent.
There we
Thank you. All right, Oralia.
Yes, let's see, on. I tend to have a really loud voice, so I'll try to take that into consideration as I speak here. Hi, good evening. I'm so excited to be here. I love this campus. Even though I did not graduate from UCSD, I feel like I definitely benefited from this beautiful university, its student, its talent. So it's really an honor being invited to speak here this evening. My name is Oralia. I'm with Mission Driven Finance. Mission Driven Finance is an asset management firm, and I'll delve more into that in a second when we go into questions. But the most important thing to know about Mission Driven Finance is that we exist to leverage finance to disrupt the conventional financial institutions, number one. Secondly, we do that with the interest of advancing and accelerating social change. That encompasses racial, economic justice, as well as environmental justice. I've been at Mission Driven for 3 years. My specific role is Director of Business Development. I'm not a fan of titles, so I always say, really, at the end of the day, I'm just an advocate for the community. I need to make sure that when I'm out in the community, I am uncovering talent, and I need to make sure that I capture those phenomenal entrepreneurs. Doesn't matter what industry they're in, but I'm going to make sure that I build that relationship with them, come back to our investment committee, and make sure that I advocate for those entrepreneurs, because we see the struggle. I used to be an entrepreneur in my past life, and it was a really dark period, and no one talks about that, right? I just got very, very lucky when it came to accessing capital, but that's really what drives me at Mission Driven Finance.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We celebrate here.
All right, I'm Julio. I'm the Executive Director of Homelab at UC San Diego. We are the university's flagship biotech accelerator. Going into our 5th year of operation now, we've helped over 38 companies with over $1 billion in exits and fundraisings. We work with you when you're a student or professor just thinking about building a startup and forming a team, to IPO and beyond. We are just down the street at the Center for Novel Therapeutics. About 88% of our teams raise a seed round coming out of our accelerator. The average size seed round is $2.5 million. From all these different sources of capital we'll talk about today, but most proud about the 68% of our startups are led by diverse founders, women and underrepresented minorities. So very proud about that.
So again, we can clap it up for that, because that is I want to first kind of jump into a little bit about each of your backgrounds. Aurelia, you mentioned a little bit about starting out as an entrepreneur first, but can you just talk a little bit about why are you in this space, and how important is that?
So I'll start with you.
With me?
Mhm.
I'm from Mexico, even though I'm Armenian, but yeah, that's why I look funny. I'm from Mexico City, and ever since I remember, I've been an entrepreneur. Since I was a small kid, I was selling something. And then I had the opportunity to become a banker. I used to work for Banco Azteca, which is the second largest bank in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was in charge of microcredits for working capital in Latin America. So I had the opportunity to open, implement, and run this operation in 5 different countries, starting from Brazil all the way to Guatemala. And this is a funny fact, but the entrepreneurs with more driven force, and I can go on and on, females, and so I just found my niche. I want to be here. When you found these entrepreneurs, these women that they say, I'm going to make it happen, or I will die trying to, say, I want to be there. I want to help. How can I contribute? So I spent almost 10 years in that bank, and then they make me an offer. I work in a company in Miami. And again, developing working capital financial instruments. And then I became independent financial consulting for the financial inclusion of the Hispanic community. Developing products so they can start a business. And I can go on and on. And then Funders First Capital make me an offer to work with them, and I accepted. So that's my background.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is incredible. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
with
and my
us.
accent is fake. No.
Ah!
I'm just trying to be interesting.
Such a good thing. Aurelia?
Yeah, so my background, I'll highlight what I believe is relevant to this context. So I think what's really important is I am trained, before I went into entrepreneurship, I am trained as a salesperson. And I mention that because this is one of the topics that oftentimes is critical when you're working with small businesses or even early stage startups. I think, again, at the end of the day, you need to make sure that that revenue center really is properly equipped. And so there's oftentimes a lot of conversation about sales. So I'm trained as a salesperson, but I was very lucky. And I'm going to keep dropping that term luck, because yes, we all know that it's about putting in the hard work, having access to the strategic networks, but at the same time, it's all about timing. I was very fortunate to be invited to work alongside my sister, and then so I got into real estate investments. As a result of that, we ended up acquiring an agricultural site, and that's where, I know, it's not fun, it's not glamorous, it sounds glamorous, it's not, and that's really where I really had the opportunity to really prove to myself, like, what was entrepreneurship and what was it that I was capable of. This was in the beverage industry. And so we did that for a very short time, but the biggest obstacle there was access, not only to capital, but specifically affordable capital that would not negatively impact your margins. Why am I in this industry now? I always think back about my last year at UCLA. I come from a family of advocacy. I come from a family that has been taught and has lived through resiliency. But so I always thought, I want to change the world, but what exactly does that look like? There's many methods, there's different pathways. But then last year I said, oh my goodness, I can master finance if I decide to go towards finance. And when you are an asset allocator, that's really where you have that biggest leverage. And that's the reason I'm in this industry. But most importantly, it's about, again, how do we allocate different types of capitals to move the needle for entrepreneurs? The entrepreneurs are the heroes. It's not the investors. We're just money movers. That's all we are. But the entrepreneurs are the heroes. You guys are the ones that are addressing social needs. You guys are the ones that are addressing those community needs. So that's what energizes me. Like, if I can somehow just play a very small part in your journey, that would be an honor. So that's the reason I show up to work every day.
Wow, that is amazing. Agriculture, that was a new one for me. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I went to school with your sister. No?
Yes.
We just talked about that earlier. So, which is probably where my entrepreneurial journey started. I was a father at 19. I was going to the University of San Diego. I was I'll back up. I grew up in a blue-collar family. My mom soldered boards for Steve Jobs in Cupertino. My father was an aircraft mechanic, and he would come home with, knuckles bloody from the propellers, and he used to tell me, "Mijo, go get an education." And so for me, that was a big pivotal part of my life is the education. I remember getting pulled over walking between my home and Hilltop High School that started an hour before the middle school, so I could take calculus classes over there because I didn't have that at the middle school. I remember getting stopped by a police officer who thought I was ditching because school was in progress, and I had to walk from the high school then to the middle school. And, those are the kind of things you kind of encounter, but you shrug it because you know what? You're trying to do the best you can for yourself, right? And so, thank goodness my father really pushed me. My other father pushed me because I was at Berkeley freshman year and got the call from my wife who said, who was my high school sweetheart, said, hey, we're going to have a baby. And so my first entrepreneurial duty was to call the University of San Diego and say, hey, that scholarship you offered me out of high school, can you reinstate it? And they did, fortunately.
Wow.
And then so I actually had two of my first kids while in undergrad, and I had to figure out, how do you go to school? I was a masochist studying biochemistry of all things, and learned to put
Oh, you're getting a shout out over here.
learned to pay for diapers and put food on the table while also publishing his undergrad on anti-cancer therapeutic. Fortunately, some of you guys might know Ronald McNair, and one of the first African-American astronauts to go into space, right? And he went on the Challenger, and unfortunately, we all know the terrible scenario with the Challenger, the explosion in space during the launch. And his family was kind enough to really get support around minorities and get them more involved in science. And so my sciences undergrad was really funded thanks to Ronald McNair. And so as a McNair scholar, I got to do a lot of research around a lot of cool labs in San Diego, both at USD, where Lee Plesniak helped me out. And again, I was fortunate enough to publish as an undergrad, but also leveraged that to do some research during the summers over here at UCSD while I was an undergrad. And with the mini PhD, I was able to jump right into industry. I published using software by a local company named Accelerus, who eventually got bought by Dassault Systems for a couple $2 billion. And they basically reached out to me and say, "Kid, we don't know what you did with our software, but we got your first job out of college."
Wow.
So I really quickly left the lab and got into business development, spent a career over there. And it was about the time my kids were late elementary school age. Fortunately, business development was able to buy my first house at 24 and be really independent economically. And that's kind of when I realized how fortunate of opportunities I've had, that when I'm dropping my kids off and they still live in a world where it still takes 10 to 20 years to put a drug in our medicine cabinets, I thought I got to do something different. So I decided to start my own company.
And that's different.
Yeah. So thanks to UCSD, gave me an opportunity to get my MBA over here. I decided to start my first company, and successful, raised millions of dollars from venture capitalists. Brown guy from the South Bay, learned how to build my network, and a lot of people helped me. Many, some who looked like me, but many who didn't. And so very fortunate to have been one of those few successful founders that built a profitable, scalable company. This was a software play in the life science industry. And a few years ago, my alma mater tapped me on my shoulder. They said, "Hey, we know you do things with startups and biotech. You want to run the accelerator?" So now I spend my days trying to teach founders how not to make the same mistakes I did, and be learn off of that. And be successful, and I get excited rolling out of bed, teaching them all the tips and tricks on how to make that happen.
Wow, that is powerful. One of the things, yes, talk about that. I think all of us can resonate with a lot of what is being shared up here, that, you had to take very different pathways to get to where you are today. It wasn't one straight path. And some other takeaways I heard is risk. You leaned into the risk, although calculated at some parts of it. Others was just, I don't know, and I'm just going to jump in there. And I think that's something that we're really excited to learn more about as we're having this conversation. I think the other thing that you all should really connect with is the diversity that we have on the stage today. Each one of these individuals are in different areas that are being able to channel funding for either founders directly or indirectly. And so a lot of the questions gonna go towards that. And we're gonna be opening it up to you all in a moment. So you all start thinking about the questions that you're wanting to ask our panelists. So let me start with you, Oralia. I want to learn a little bit more about Mission Driven. I know that you all boast a lot. You put up the numbers. I'm very familiar with you all. Actually, everyone on this panel, I have had really great interactions with, either directly with our founders or indirectly with just as community partners. And so with Mission Driven specifically, you all boast 115 million with community and support, and working with 171 businesses. Can you talk a little bit about what differentiates mission-driven finance from traditional financial institutes in supporting community-centered innovation in small business?
Yes.
That's a mouthful.
I love my team, so I might brag about them a little bit too much, but I say that in the most humble way. I brag about them because they really are transforming lives. More importantly, mission-driven, as I mentioned before, it is an asset management firm. So what that means is we are a very unique model. On one side, we design and manage funds. So just as an example, let's say if Starbucks comes to us and say, hey, we have $100 million to allocate specifically for Black entrepreneurs. They're not in the business of managing funds. So they hire Mission Driven, and Mission Driven is the one that designs that fund. And they identify the other lenders that could potentially deploy that capital. So that's fund management. Something that may be a little bit more tangible, like at the innovation level for universities. If you guys are familiar with Lacey, Los Angeles Clean Incubator, we're their fund manager.
Yes.
So that's another example, right? On the other side of the spectrum, very, very tiny aspect of our business model, it happens to be that we have a number of debt funds. So debt funds, we provide term loans for small businesses, including post-revenue startups that are addressing any type of challenges within economic, diverse entrepreneurship, and environmental sustainability. Let's see, we've been in business for 7 years, but what's really important about that is when you share those numbers, that's a very large number, having more than $100 million out into the community within a time frame of 7. And I share that with you because I think this is really a real nice observation that there's accelerating interest in ESG. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about entrepreneurships. The investors are thinking about what does it mean to move capital, not just looking for those 10x or plus more returns. What does it mean when you're actually investing in community? When you have those type of market pressures, again, you don't have to spend too much time as an entrepreneur, but be aware of those macro trends. If you look at our portfolio, it's very diverse. Like it still blows my mind, even being there after this long, right? On one side of the spectrum, we are actively funding a lot of the clean tech companies, even medical manufacturing companies. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we even invest in nonprofits. I think from our understanding, we might be the only one that has that private equity model that invests in nonprofits with the expectation of a financial return. But the way that we're able to mitigate a risk is obviously putting everything within a specific structured fund. So I share that because it doesn't matter at the end of the day what type of business that you're driving. What's really important is understanding the mechanics of finance, understanding the mechanics of who is your investor, right? The fact that we can invest in that diversity of business entities really is something to think about. And then the other side of the question, what was it?
About supporting small business, community and small business.
Oh yeah, so whenever we look at the investments for us, at first, it might not seem innovative. You think, oh, it's just a term loan. What's so innovative about that, Oralia? What's really innovative is that we're leveraging that private equity model within the context of a small business. So that means that we're betting on the management team first and foremost, right? Secondly, even though it's a small business loan, we're not holding your historical financials against you. If they're not strong, we're comfortable looking at those forward-looking projections. And also, we don't necessarily have a requirement with how long you need to be in business. And then secondly, because we're really trying to get to a yes, we've removed specific mechanisms from our debt structure. So for example, we don't ask for personal guarantees, which is really unheard of in this country. Like it doesn't really exist, right? And then our loan size is not small. Like the smallest checks that we do is 100K up to 1.5 million. But then if we have a deal that we just are head over heels and we're like, now we can definitely see where this is going, we syndicate that deal. So we're able to bring in larger than 1.5 million, and that more than 1.5 million. That's a lot, again, even for those type of small businesses.
Yeah, that is powerful and so needed and in the community. I want to ask you the same question, Luis.
Yeah, the way that we try to make a difference in the society, Funded First Capital is 2 companies. It's Funded First CDC, which is a nonprofit organization, and we do there is grants. We have 5 different grants, and I always say the entrepreneurs in this country, you gotta apply to every single grant that is in this country. I mean, there is money here for you guys, there is a use. I was talking with someone in the Hispanic community, and it's like, what is the catch? Very Hispanic way to be. What do you mean? Fishy here. So I say, well, there is no catch. In order for the economy to get lift, you gotta inject cash flow to the bottom of the pyramid, and that's you guys. So that is the catch. You are doing a favor to the community. So we do that. We have grants, national grants, local grants. We have accelerator programs. designed for entrepreneurs at different spectrum. So with that, we cover a little bit of cash flow to your business and education to the entrepreneurs. And that is the nonprofit organization. And the profit organization is Funded First Capital, and that's where we allocate largest check, like I said, all the way from $100,000 to a couple $1 million. Something that I want to share here and for you to analyze is, in the banking industry, it's very important to know your customer, right? As soon as we know the company, as soon as we know the entrepreneur, we all know each other. So if I know a good match for your company, maybe Oralia will be. And what I'm going to do if I cannot help you, I'm going to call Oralia or some other guys, and I'm going to say, listen, I have a good match for you, and I'm going to send the information. Once you pass and know your customer with one of the industries, that is less difficult to get you working capital. And I say this because, like Oralia said, she doesn't ask for personal guarantee. I think that's the only one in the country. So that's a great help right there, We do ask for personal guarantee to the owners. We don't take collateral like a regular bank. A regular banker, when you sit down before they offer you coffee, they say, show me the house, show me how big is your house, or I will call you an Uber, right? And if you go to a BC, they're going to ask you for equity, and we don't ask for equity. So we don't ask for collateral, we don't ask for equity, we do ask for personal guarantee. And we try to be as open and imaginarium as you can be. We, as same as Oralia said, we don't go to look what happened in the past with your sales, but rather the future sales. Maybe you have a huge contract that you already signed with the government, with a huge company, and you need working capital. We're there for you. That contract is solid. We can see the future revenue. And so that's I think that's pretty much.
Yeah, fantastic. Julio, because you work more closely with startups and helping grow and develop them, can you talk a little bit about how you help them get access to capital and also looking for more diverse funding as doing so? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, first of all, credit to all the capital allocators up here. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, are you on? I don't know. Okay, let's switch.
There's this.
Oh, never mind, it's on now.
There's this. There we go.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so kudos to the capital allocators. I think, it's amazing to hear. I think that was the first time I ever heard of investors say they're trying to get to a yes. Usually we're talking about the entrepreneur, right? 9 no's to a yes, right? So pretty amazing environment that we live in these days. So much helpful capital out there. One of the things we try and do before we have our founders get all excited and go out to the investors is actually get their own house in order, right? So a lot of our founders, think that, they watch Shark Tank and think they can raise $25 million out the gate. Not quite how it happens, but help them really get the structure so that they can have these efficient conversations with investors, right? Oftentimes they get told by investors, come back when you've done X, Y, and Z, right? Which is a polite no, right? And so helping them identify like what is a no and what are the challenges, if they've been trying to fundraise for 6 to 9 months, in our industry in life sciences, often even longer, help them identify the problems, ideally proactively, right? If their brother-in-law told them to, incorporate it as a S corp to save taxes on an industry that doesn't generate a single dollar revenue for 9 years, right? So just helping them become investable, right? Trying to set them up. Delaware C Corp is not a debate, for a venture-backed company. It is table stakes, and help them identify some of the other aspects that might encumber their round, right? So if they want to be a PI and have 90% of the cap table and 10%, 10% of it is for the actual CEOs and operators in the day-to-day, they want to keep being a professor on campus, like that doesn't fly, right? Or having co-founders who aren't all in during the pre-seed round, right? It's like, well, investors' capital is full-time. So if you're a co-founder and you think you're going to raise some capital, guess what? You're also going to need to be in there full-time. So just aspects of of getting ready and prepared to go out there and fundraise and de-risk everything you can without the capital, right? So getting the cap table and the team together, figuring out what the most immediate value inflection points are, so you can raise that first $100,000 to then build your proof of concept, and then really help them establish the fundraising process, right? And often we teach them how to ladder, right? So build some momentum, get that first couple of angel investors and high net worth individuals in there before you go after institutional rounds, right? So that's a lot of the prep work we're doing, right? Business model canvas, think about your business, think about the value proposition, what are the key resources and partnerships, who's the real customer, especially in life science. A lot of folks confuse the investors as the customer, right? That's not who the customer is. And if you're changing your pitch every single time you talk to a new investor, that's a telltale sign to investors that you're really not focused on what's the real problem and how are you making that killer solution that only your team can deliver on, right? So a lot of those kind of powerful conversations are what we're having in our UC Foundry pre-seed accelerator as well as in our accelerator program. And then we get that capital and then it's off the races. They've got to really deliver. That's when the real work begins, right? The fundraising process is often the beginning of really building your company, right?
Wow, you are hitting on a lot of key points that I want to go to Oralia about. When you have an investor coming to you that has a product or service that is of interest to you, what are you actually looking for when they are presenting to you?
The founder.
But you have
The
an
founder.
entrepreneur there.
Yeah, an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to answer the question the best way possible, because the short answer, it depends. And the reason I say it depends is for the following reasons. Let's say, so just in general, our template, the way it works is, number one, we're looking for diverse entrepreneurship, meaning diverse management team, because that's gonna drive the vision. Secondly, we're gonna look for community impact. So if we were to unlock capital to this specific business entity, how is it positively impacting the region? Then third, we want to make sure that when you're taking on debt, it's actually a strategic move. So how is this amplifying your financials at the end of the day? How is it actually fueling your growth or your scale? Those are the three main questions. But the things that really we're going to do more a deep dive of is understanding the industry. So for example, when we're looking at the industries, we might feel a little bit more comfortable doing like larger loans, even for tech startups. They have to be post-revenue though, as long as they have some type of enterprise level contract that we're bridging to, right? And then on the other side of the type of businesses that we're investing in, again, just using the small business. Let's say if we're investing something in construction, and I'm using this because we recently did a $1 million loan for a construction company here in San Diego. We're going to be looking at what is the viability of their contracts, especially for that type of company that has contracts with municipalities. We do know that maybe those municipalities are a little bit slow, for their payment schedules. So those are the different factors that we're going to take into consideration. So oftentimes we have to keep very relevant to how is it that the industry is operating. But we do try to keep it as consistent as possible with those three pillars: diverse management, community impact, and pathway to repayment for the investment.
Fantastic. Same question, Luis.
The social impact, we look for that as well. We pay special attention in the cash flow. We want to see how's your cash flow been for the last 12 months, and that will tell us a little bit of the story. Of course, because you're going to do the pitch that your product and your service is the greatest in the world. We want to see reflected in the numbers. And then we want to see reflected is how you can tell me that you're going to sell 1 million more than what you're already selling, but why? Do you have contracts? We are specify a business to business or business to government funded first. We don't do business to consumer because that's more difficult to predict. So we look for that. We look also for the debt. How much money do you own, to whom, and what is the term? We don't want you to take more debt than what you can handle it. And also when you say, the typical question, and I think it's very common for the rest of us, is how much you looking for? It's like, well, I don't know, but you should know, It's like, and when you say the number, is you be ready to say, I need $1 million because they're going to use it for this, So it has to make sense, because you don't want pay interest on money that is going to be parking in the checking account. So those are the details that like you say, before you sit down with any entrepreneur, with any investors, get your numbers ready. It's a pleasure when you talk an entrepreneur and you ask, what happened here? Why is the numbers jumping? It's like, oh, because this, and that. It's like, oh my God. The confidence start to build. And for us to present that deal to the investor committee, it's very easy. And in a couple of weeks, you're going to have the cash. Yeah.
Fantastic. It seems like you want to jump in there and say something, Julio. I see you like posturing.
Oh, I'm just saying, yes, please keep telling our entrepreneurs exactly. I mean, I tell a lot of our team, look, when you sit down, you go to market or your development plan, right? You make a Gantt chart, right? Here are the tasks. Here's who owns it. Here are the different activities, a set of activities, build these milestones and these value inflection points. And you sit down with an investor and you ask them for money. You just think about that map and say, well, it's going to cost me this to do those activities. That's why I'm asking for it. And they can articulate that to the investors. As you said, it's a dream, but also we teach them, you've got to go sell this internally. So it helps you, internally be able to communicate what they're trying to do and accomplish and how you guys are factoring into it.
And if your company is not profitable yet, it's okay. You can say, God damn, my bottom line is red. I'm losing money. It's okay. We will not be scared about that. If you're developing a platform, we understand that you're just burning money. But the regular question is, when is your break even? How much time you're going to be burning money? And if you do know the time, it's like, oh, okay. So we know what to expect, right? Yeah.
Another question for you all. Are you investing in early stage as well?
Yes.
Perfect.
So early
What
stage,
does that look like?
yes, early stage meaning as long as there's post revenue. So I'll give you very specific examples. For instance, we recently invested in it's a SaaS company. They are the ones that optimize the SaaS platform for the EV charging stations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when they came to us, they were strictly pre-revenue. But the reason that Mission Driven Finance was confident in issuing that debt instrument was because they had a huge contract with the Department of Energy, a grant. So what's really interesting, what we're seeing more of, especially with the whole transition into everything EV, is the Department of Energy might be awarded massive grants, but they won't get reimbursed. First, you actually have to execute on phase 1, 2, 3, and then you get reimbursed. And that's exactly what we had with this specific clean tech startup. So we were able to say, okay, we'll issue the debt, and then you guys execute on that contract, and then they get reimbursed. So that's like a perfect example. We don't think about it, right? Startups, I mean, of course, they're going to be getting massive grants, but before they kick in, you have to still somehow source capital from somewhere else.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up about grants. Julio, I'd like you to talk a little bit about why do you well, first of all, you have an accelerator that right now is in progress, and you have how many in that accelerator right now?
So we're doing the UC Foundry first cohort for that accelerator for the pre-seed one. We started with 18 teams and we're down to 9 because it's a pretty brutal closing program.
Very intense program. But can you talk a little bit about how you all are working with them to go after non-dilutive funding, specifically connected to grants, and why is that important and connected to what Oralia is speaking about right now?
Yeah, I'm probably going to toss this right back to you. As we are helping them get that first couple $100,000 from friends, family, and fools, FF&F round, right? That's what we call it. We also, towards the end there, are really working and helping them focus on the additional capital coming out of, especially out of the government right now, the America Seed programs, building infrastructure in biomanufacturing, the SBIR, SCTRs, grants coming out of the NIH and NSF and even the DoD has some programs as well. And it's actually, at a period of time where I think there's more capital pouring into the deep science technologies more than ever. And so one of the things we're trying to help the top performing teams do is get access to support writing the grants. A lot of our scientists know how to write scientific grants, but business grants is a different story. And so helping them understand and get the resources to think about the market size and the go-to-market and the commercialization strategy. There's a lot of support that they can use. So we help pair them up with resources from the business school here, Rady School of Management, through the Venture Fellows Program. We also have an Associate Fellows Program who are bringing on students who are interested in learning more about startups and venture with backgrounds and teaching them a little bit on how to roll everything up from market sizing, right? TAM, SAM, SOM, initial market sizes, all the way to, what is the revenue model? How are we going to make money? What are the costs in that? And we've had a few success cases already.
Yes,
I
we
know
have.
highlighted that. We just, I don't know if you want to.
You want to announce it?
Yeah. So Jay-Z Team Therapeutics, won a $1.5 million grant. Thank you to the EDA grant, the Venture Catalyst program here. $1.5 million EDA grant that helps support the program and has now already, I think, returned, right? It's an ROI already of 100%. Right, so $1.5 million grant from the NIH, and that's going to help him continue to build his company, which is focused on therapeutic appeal for curing hearing loss. Hardworking entrepreneur we recruited out of Omaha, Nebraska, at a great university, great professor over there. And we also couldn't have done it without the help of Mended Wings. So helping write the grants, helping do the reviews, helping do the edits, it was teamwork.
It was a team effort.
It really was, down to the wire.
Down to the wire. Yeah. No, the reason why I wanted to highlight the grant component, and I'm glad, Oralia, you brought that up, and you also spoke about it as well, Luis, is that when we're thinking about going after capital, especially when you're pre-revenue, one of the things to leverage is grant funding. And yes, it is overwhelming, but one of the strategies, because my background is in grant writing and I have a boutique agency or firm called Mended Wing Consulting, one of the things that we always talk about is your strategy. You need to be very clear in what your interest is when it comes to going after funding. So if your focus is in biotech, then you want to look for funding in that area. And you can do a blanket Google search on that. But you can also start with, because most people think I have to pay money. There are free programs out there like the SBA, Small Business Administration. They are federally funded to give you all resources. You want to make them work for you because they're getting paid millions of dollars to help you all. And they're so underutilized because most people don't know about them, and some of the onus is on them as well, and they recognize that, so they're doing their due diligence to market better. But the SBA, you need to go to the SBA.gov and register, get free information. Do not pay someone to tell you about something that is free. You also mentioned the American Seed that is out. It's connected to that as well. If you go on the SBA website, you'll see, and you put in American Seed, they actually have funding connected to SBIR and STTR, and they have resources there that are free. They will help coach you, guide you through application process and attending webinars when they come out. And then also for those of you all who are local as well, the SBDC, again, they're just an extension of the SBA, but they too will provide you with free resources, grant writing. Again, I always encourage everyone to learn how to fish, and then you can have the choice to choose to pay someone to fish for you. But if you can learn the basic mechanics of how to do some of this grant writing, the basic elements of it, at least you have a starting place before you kind of go out there and start looking for someone to actually help you write. So really great resource. And I see Oralia has a thought and wants to
Yes,
jump in.
just really quickly.
Yeah.
So the grants, I know at times it might seem a little bit elusive, but they're real, because like when we look back at our pre-revenue startups that we've been able to provide capital to, the majority of them do have grants because they're working on research, some type of research and development. They're doing something in the innovation space. So the fact that they're ending at mission driven, like it's real, like the dollars are there. We had a what's it called? A success story not too long ago. There was a female founder that ended up starting an organization to address disparities in healthcare. And it started all because apparently there was some type of funding, I forgot the name of it, but she ended up securing a little bit over $1 million because no one else applied for the funding. So it's real, the dollars are out there. It's just being very strategic. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you feel like federal grants is really daunting, which it is, I mean, you'll get a book, and that is the just the notification to tell you that this funding is out there. So it's really didactic. I would often encourage folks to look at corporate funding as well. Yes, it is convoluted with a lot of people that may be going after it, but one of the things to keep in mind is that there's far less people applying than that are applying. And the reason why I say that is because I'm talking with these folks. They're reaching out to us and they're like asking us to help spread the word, amplify it, because they're being under applied for. And so I would definitely encourage you all to sign up with those groups that I had mentioned before.
Can I add just one
Yeah,
more
of
thing on
course.
that? So I'm an entrepreneur and I'm also a get shit done kind of guy. So I don't know if I can swear at it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, grants, as an entrepreneur, I always thought like, why are you wasting time getting grants? You're going to spend 9 months, like go get the quick money, go talk to VCs, go talk to investors. Don't wait, because we were getting scientists that would wait a year, not get a grant, wait another year, and then finally get a grant. And they're like, are you saving lives or not? Like, get started. So, on one hand, I had a bias against getting grants, and I've learned over time that it's a balance, right? I think, I had more of a gripe with folks that wouldn't start their life-saving startups because they didn't get grants, and they only wanted grants, and they didn't want dilution. And that's part of that ego of, look, you can own 100% of a company, right? But if you can't get it going, can't get the resources to build it, how can you have that impact?
Yeah.
Right. But on the other end, you do need these grants. These are great. This is one of the weapons that should be in your back pocket. And today, it's easier than ever to get them. Like you said, Christiana, all of the program managers are screaming, how do we get the word out? We've got tons of grants and we've got to get it out the door. So entrepreneurs, it's out there. And I will say, from a portfolio perspective, when we look at the 38 startups with $1 billion in exits and fundraisings, we do recognize a pattern. Our top performing portfolio, right, the power laws, we say in VC, the ones like Tom Miller from Pasadena, Caltech, who's got a $100 million Series B he just did in October. From these successful founders, we tend to see several characteristics. One is usually they're serial entrepreneurs. Usually they have a diverse team and they're connected to university, either as IP being licensed or alumni. And the other thing is they've raised at least $100,000 in grant funding. And I think that speaks a lot to how powerful the grant funding process is, not only from the monetary perspective, but it also is a forcing function to think about the business and how do you commercialize that and not just build a research project, but actually build a real company.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a question for all three of you all. Can you talk a little bit about what strategies and resources founders can utilize to increase their visibility and attractiveness to investors, especially those that are that identify as diverse or in the inclusive sector? I'll start with you, please.
Yeah, I think my always advice to the entrepreneurs to look for the investors that invest in your industry. If I know your industry, then your risk go lower on me because I know what I can expect from your company. I know exactly the answers and the process is going to be much faster and easier. So that's how you can highlight yourself with investors. Look like if you're in the restaurant, I know you much. If you're in the cannabis, I know you. So look for especially look for the investor industry in your business, and they will realize if you work invested on. Two microphones there.
Oh, this one,
Yeah,
oh my
there you
goodness,
go.
so many microphones, amplification. So I like that advice. And then, I would add.
How about my other son?
But and being very strategic, right? Thinking about how do I secure that capital or get as close as possible to securing the capital to ensure that I'm still working on the mission for my company. I would say the best advice is understanding money. I know this sounds very like basic, but trust me, it's not basic. Money, I always say, it's a tool. We hear that oftentimes, right? Capital is a tool. By definition, this is not me like coming up with anything. The dictionary, this is what the definition of the dictionary says. A tool is a mechanism, it's an enabler, and I forgot the third one. Oh, yeah, an enabler, and it has a function. So we think about that, I think it really starts to personify capital, which is important, especially in the investment space. So I would say add that type of characteristics, feel comfortable identifying what is the value of the capital that I'm interested in trying to spark interest with, right? What does that mean specifically? So let's say if you're a company that has that amazing vision, right, of becoming a unicorn, it would make sense to go after the VC investors. But if you are a type of company that says, maybe I might not necessarily go after that $1 billion valuation or more, I'm focused more on becoming, $50 million, which is still not bad, type recurring revenue annual company, that's perfectly fine. But understand, who are the type of investors that are interested in that type of risk? Who are the type of investors that are interested in that type of business model? For the most part, it tends to be impact investors because they believe in being patient capital, that's what we call it. So I think it's understanding who is your capital and what is it that they're interested in obtaining and investing from you. So it doesn't even have to, like, I like what you mentioned, that sometimes the investors, they don't have to look like you, right? It's like understanding if the investor is really interested in environmental sustainability, go after those type of investors, if that's what you are specifically addressing.
Nice. Julio?
I think we're talking about, sales and how important sales is to the founders and to startups. And I think even you're thinking about the investor process and the sales process, it's building that persona, who is my ideal investor, and thinking about what stage am I at even, right? So, I probably wouldn't run to an institutional investor if I'm pre-revenue, I'm just getting the founding team together. I'm probably going to go look at folks who, yes, big idea in a big market, but they're really going to bet on the team in the early stage. And so, your secret sauce is probably not your algorithm or some proprietary invention that you have patented. It's probably that you can execute, right? There's secret sauces that you're not going to turn up on your back and expose your belly and give up right away, right? That you're going to be able to roll out of bed even when it's the hardest of hard times, even when you had a fight with your spouse or significant other, right? We can't pay the bills, rent is due, right? These are all the things that as an entrepreneur, things do not go ideal, right? And you have to have a lot of grit. And so going after early investors before you raise the institutional round who really believe in you, right? And are looking at, okay, I'm going to put $100,000 and it might just burn, right? And I'm not going to get a return, but that's okay because Christian, I believe in you. I know that you're going to work hard to, if someone could pull this off, it's going to be you, right? And so, we really tell them, sell the team in there early, and then the later stage, investors, you're building the target list and the persona, talking about the things that they attract. At the end of the day, of course, investors want to have impactful entrepreneurs that are addressing important issues like sustainability and new technologies in food because we don't have enough arable land or the next cure for cancer. Right. And so just identifying those investors, an easy way of building a list is to look at who did they bet on? Who are the jockeys that they were successful for, who are in your space? And, go build a list and don't cold reach them. The hard work as an entrepreneur is find a warm introduction. Go talk to portfolio CEOs that they backed, right? And folks that can introduce them in because you're building a relationship. It's not about the capital, right? It's a long-term relationship. Any investor in a startup isn't doing this to get rich overnight, right? These are long-term 10-year returns. Their fund lives are not measured in quarters like, the stock market. They're measured in years and looking ultimately to have an impact. But at the end of the day, they're assets under management, and there is an ROI, and you have to know those numbers. So putting together a targeted list, building the relationships early on with those investors, and showing traction over time. I start to interact with you. Let me increase my say-do ratio, right? That's the best way to fundraise, is to make that interaction. Tell them what you're trying to do, and 6 months later, come back with a list and I said I was going to do A, I did A. Said I was going to do B, I did B. C went sideways, I learned from it, and now I'm working on D, right? That's from a fundraising perspective, I think working and building that relationship with investors, having a targeted approach, not just you saw that they have a fund and it's $100 million fund, and maybe they'll throw money at me, right? It's got to be more thoughtful and intentional.
Got you. I appreciate that. I'm ready to open it up. I see a
One-
hand already.
one
Oh,
more-
one
one-
more
one-
before
one-
we open it up. to
one
the
more,
audience.
because it land very well here, and I say this to the entrepreneurs and to my friends. If you know who is your investors, who is the person, just go put yourself in front of the person and say, listen, I'm the guy that you want to talk to. And I don't say this just, I say because I did it before many times. One of the best jobs is in the bank. I say I'm a banker. The owner of Banco Azteca is a huge entrepreneur. He's a huge leader in Mexico City. And he hired me because I saw him in one social event and I said, God damn, you're going to say. So I went there and I say, Ricardo, my name is Luis Gutierrez, and you the guy that I want to work with, and I can add value to your company. And we start to speak, and 45 minutes later, he say, you hired, I don't know where, but you hired. And that's how he hired me.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Opportunity.
yeah, but you gotta go in front, It's
Yeah.
like, remember those guys when you were in high school, she's so beautiful. So what? You go ask her.
I love it. So I want to open it up to questions now. Oh, yeah. Definitely go after it. So I want to open it up to questions, and the gentleman in the back had his hand up first, and then I see you in the corner.
A couple of questions for Julio. So at Homelab, do you consider a medical device and diagnostic device as well as therapeutics, or?
Oh, absolutely. Don't let the Center for Novel Therapeutics stuff fool you.
Super. Second question is, you mentioned Delaware Corporation. There is a program.
Wait. Do you mind asking your question into the microphone so that everyone can hear? Thank you.
You mentioned Delaware Corporation, and I know it's very important for most venture capitalists, but there is a program on campus that would require the entrepreneur that I'm mentoring to register under a California corporation. Would that be a problem?
Let me give you the theory around the Delaware C Corp. If you're a VC, you're going to invest in Delaware C Corp because the law is established. There's a lot of knowns and not as many unknowns when it comes to the legal system of it. So the challenge, if you aren't consumable, you're not a Delaware C Corp, is that while you're pitching and you're getting that investor really excited, okay, they're going to write you that nice check. They're less likely to write you, almost 100% probably not going to write you that check until you convert from that California corporation to Delaware. So the challenge is that's going to cost not just money that you probably don't have, but also time. And so time, going back to the sales, is the number one killer of a deal. So if you have an investor who's ready to basically lead or write you that check and close your round, you have the lawyers taking the time it requires to convert your company. Meanwhile, a big headline coming across TechCrunch where your competitor just raised huge money from a big vintage name VC, your round is now dead. And so that's one of the challenges and why we recommend
Over here in the corner.
So I know earlier. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
So I know earlier you said if you want someone to invest in you, you have to go find them, and then you have to say, I'm the person. So how do you find them? How do you know where they're hanging out?
And Google, you just open your computer. How I found the owner of the bank, and I just Google it. I say, he's a famous guy. He's the number 3rd rich person in Mexico, so it's easy to know him, right? But I remember, I don't make that advice. I remember Steve Jobs saying that I remember in an interview that he said that he called when he was a teenager, the owner of, I forget this company, of course, but he called him in Palo Alto and he said, "Can I go?" And he said yes, So you found it in Google, you Google it. These times you found everybody and everything in Google. And you just go there, you jump the system, you just make it happen. The fact that you put next to the guy is like, whoa, so you have what it takes. So that's how I found for me, and it will work for everybody.
So I'm going to go back to the sales process. So we do an exercise in our accelerator where you go on LinkedIn, right? And you think about your company. Let's say you're doing biotech. You just go into LinkedIn and you search, biotech investor, angel investor, and you look at your network. First exercise is just put some sort of keywords around the industry you're in and investor, right? Especially angels, right? And you look at how many connections you have. If you have a few dozen, you're probably in trouble. Go get a job and build your network. If you've got somewhere on the order of a few hundred, now you have something you can work with. And so you really need to have this established network that you can go to, or at least your first and second degree, you have a few hundred connections that are something like biotech enthusiast, angel investor. From there, you basically then are starting to go and look at, are you a direct connect? Great, now go talk to them, try and socialize the idea and get their feedback, right? All your entrepreneurs, here's a hint, ask for advice, you get money, ask for money, you get advice, okay? So set up these coffee chats and just, hopefully you're working on an elevator pitch where you can communicate that you're working on a big idea and a big market and you're the team that can win. But they're a person, so you're just really talking about you and your background and why you're so excited about what you're doing and learn more about them. And you kind of build that list, you look at the numbers and you network. And whether it's directly going out and using LinkedIn, or if you're second degree, right, go find someone in your network who can introduce you to that potential investor. That's the other way to do it, to start out.
And I'd also add on there, you want to be tapped into your resources. If you're a student here at UCSD, then you should be connected to one of the accelerators here, because we're all connected to VCs on some level, or at least the entrepreneurial center programs that exist. And there's multiple all on campus, but you want to be tapped into those ecosystems because they're going to help support you as you're doing your search.
And lastly, if I may, you have, once you found the person and once you reach the person, you have what we call the silver bullet. You have one shot. If you miss it, you don't want to make it again. It's like, oh, here she goes again. What now? It's like, boom. You have to make it up.
Yeah. Here we are, one in the back.
Yeah, so I'm part of Homelab under Julio, so I really appreciate your.
Shout out to Homelab.
My name is Raj Sui. I'm currently based out of Texas. I'm out here weekly to Homelab. Love it here. Company's name is Manny Bio. Just a little bit about it. I started as a dad and a scientist. My daughter was 2 years old. Was healthcare assistant didn't take care of her, and she ended up with open heart surgery at 14 months old. Has a genetic distribution rare disease, and so as a dad, I took charge and built a company to democratize and reduce the cost of whole genome sequencing and offer community services with that, as well as we're working to repurpose drugs to help children with rare disease starting to rise. So my question is, and I think it's a great ecosystem, amazing ecosystem here you guys got here. It's amazing, unbelievable. Some of the things that are still kind of unknown to me is the idea of grants and how, if we're not associated with NIH yet. I know I've developed my relationships with them, but there are a number of grants that we can get service with NIH, having the ERA and certain credentials. Is there a facility that can help us get access to those so we can apply for those grants?
So we're actually working, meaning Mended Wing Consulting, we do a lot of advocacy work as well. We recognize that grant writing is one of our value props, but also advocating, meaning we go and talk to the funders and help them understand the challenges that are being experienced on the front line, as well as understanding their pain points and communicating that back down the pipeline so that we're helping one another, so there's reciprocity there. So I would say if you're wanting to connect with NIH directly and learn more about early seed funding, research funding that may not be already out to market, yes, there are opportunities for you to get in front of them and have conversations with them. I always encourage folks, they always put an email on their website. And it'll just be there, and or sometimes they'll put a phone number. Oftentimes there's a phone number. People don't call them. People don't. People think, I'm not picking up my phone, where is somebody else? Do you know how many times I picked up the phone and called somebody at the patent office at NIH, and they pick up the, hello? And I'm like, hello, this is a real person? Yes. And I'm like, oh, hello, hi, what was I calling? Oh yeah, this is where I was calling. And it's just blossomed. So what Luis was saying is just kind of put yourself out there, call, Google, all these things they're saying, like we do, I've done that. I literally will run up on somebody and I'm fearless because the worst thing you could say to me is no. And do you really mean no, or did I just not help you get to that yes? What do we need to do to get to that yes? So one of the things that I always encourage is go on the website, look at the link. I'm more than happy to share because you're tapped into Homelab. We work with them. So connect with Julio and he'll connect us together. But I would say go on the website, email, call, ask them questions about what they have available that may not be out to market. And sometimes what we'll find is that when we present to them something that's not to market, this happened with the EDA. We started having conversations with them a year ago, we being Bended Wing. And through those conversations, we recognized that there were opportunities for funding that they weren't thinking of and barriers to funding that they didn't realize. I always quote the great Ice Cube from Boys in the Hood, either they don't know, don't show, or just don't care what's going on. Some of that is true all across the board. And so there's just opportunity there to educate as well as receive the resources that are out there. You had a follow-up?
Well, just to add one point.
Yes.
When I first started the company about 9 months ago, my first thing was I couldn't get a hold of doctors, geneticists, others. So I joined for like $150. I joined the ACHG, which is the American Society of Human Geneticists.
Yes.
Bought a ticket to DC, sat to the doctors that would never even take a phone call. You sit right next to them. They got no choice but to talk to you.
There you go. There you
Even my
go.
daughter in there, they had no choice but to look at her and say, I have to talk to you.
See?
But
Yeah.
the thing is, they try to put these firewalls up, especially NIH folks, that if you're not big enough or don't have a relationship with you, they don't want to talk to you in front of all these people. But something you just got to put them alone and then figure it out. And go from there. But that was just, I think it's helpful for everybody to really know that these are not just government bodies that want to talk to you. There are facilities, and you just can ask and be persistent about this.
Yeah, and I will also tell you that they recognize, like I said before, some of them don't even know there's roadblocks. They don't know, and that's where we come in to help educate them. But actually a connection through Julio got us in front of an NIH representative that has been dying to connect with someone who can help leverage resources to reduce barriers. I call it redlining. It's just another level of redlining, and they're looking to reduce that. And so, yeah, let's talk. What other question we got? Oh, let's go right here in the green.
Hi, I'm also a founder in the Julio's Homelab program. I have
Okay,
two
hold on,
questions.
representative.
Firstly, at what point in the company's development do you think it's more favorable to go for the debt instruments you're talking about instead of equitable funding?
That's a great question. You want to answer that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say for debt to ever make sense, there has to be a pathway to repayment. That's really what it comes down to. But how do I actually look at that decision, or what are the factors that I should be looking at when I'm trying to evaluate? As long as you are post-revenue, I think that's definitely a good indicator. Also, let's say, for example, if you do have paying customers, that's another good indicator. And then third, I would say, depending on what stage of the company you're at. So debt, let's say even if you're an early stage company, if you are at an inflection point, maybe you're onboarding the first large enterprise type of contract, that's definitely a good, like, that's a green light for definitely making sure that you're thinking about debt in addition to venture capital. But let's say, for example, if you are in that innovative space, you should be looking at VC capital. And I know, again, and I share this from a personal perspective. So when I'm at a mission-driven finance, I'm also an angel investor at San Diego Angel Conference. So personally, I do have that interest in making sure that the companies I'm investing in eventually do receive that VC funding or have some type of exit, whatever that looks like. So I would say if you're, as long as there's some type of IP, obviously, you will be a strong candidate for VC, but it's not bad if you're diluting yourself. It's trying to understand how much dilution am I willing to take, right? The opportunity cost, and how can I strategically pair equity, right? An equity instrument with debt. And that's really what it comes down to. I love there's a graphic, and it's like a scale of justice. And on that scale of justice, the equity side is here, and then the what's it called? The debt is on this side. And I think that does a beautiful job of communicating. It's not one or the other. It's what we call the capital stack, understanding what type of financial instrument are you using at what stage of a company, right? But you don't have to figure out yourself. Like, you have obviously amazing advisors like Julio, but most importantly, like, you can always consult also, like with like I always say, like, there will come a time where you do have to look at fractional accounting firms, right? Like, or finance firms, those type of advisory firms. That would be like a good gauge to understand how much equity should I be thinking about and how much debt should I be thinking about, right? Or even us, like we'll try to figure out, does it make even sense for your cap table as well? So it's just like very specific.
And lastly, because you gotta understand, if you sit down and you wanna offer equity and you're in an early stage, you're in a very weak position, right? They're gonna offer you less money than if you already have some traction going on. My advice to my friends is, like, build some traction first, build some momentum. There is some instrument that is always okay if you, like Oralia said, if you have the cash flow to do the repayment, put it on your pricing, and then once you have something going on, then you have the power of negotiation, and your equity, instead of being this much of money, is gonna be this much. So I think that's the moment. Yeah.
We have a
Thank you.
question.
I had one more
Oh,
question.
yes.
How do you work with small companies who can't pay off these debt instruments? What does the process look like?
Hear that question, Joanne? Do you guys work with the small companies? I don't know.
The small companies is you have to have a revenue of $500,000 already, 24 months of operation with revenue of $500,000. That's a traction that we want to see. Again, if your company is not profitable yet, we don't mind, So that's a small company right there. We're not pre-revenue, but it's a lot of companies there. I mean, a lot of entities pre-revenue. So, but that's my direct answer is $500,000. If you cross that bridge, then we're matched, at least in that fact. And also, you're thinking about equity. It's like more instruments that doesn't have to be equity. Like in my opinion, equity is you exit a strategy, right? You start to dilute yourself because you're ready to do so, and then you do the cash out, the 7 years.
Really quick, what kind of startup do you have? Maybe that helps us answer, what kind of startup do you have?
We're developing a benchtop laboratories for characterizing biomaterials using our unique microfluidic invention.
Big sweet. My brain.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
You're the perfect candidate for VC stuff.
Yeah. Very well.
So I would say, like, just really quickly. So what's really interesting though, right? When you are in that innovation space, you have the advantage of being able to tap into accelerators. So a lot of those accelerators really are your vouching or your advocate for a lot of those venture dollars. That's what it comes down to. Even for us at Mission Driven, we're not necessarily deploying the capital sometimes directly to the early stage entrepreneurs. But if we do see potential, we'll refer them, for example, to the clean tech incubator. At the end of the day, we're still underwriting that that loan for them, right? So it's like the accelerators really are your gateway to a lot of those dollars.
And the Clean Tech Incubator, there is local here to San Diego, but the Lacey one is in LA. So for those of you all who may not be local, or your startup is not local, just know that you can still tap into some of these. We had a question over here.
Thank you. I'm Raymond. I'm visiting from Malaysia. I'm also in sustainable financing. This question is to Oralia, but of course, the other two panelists and also chip in. Do you actively look out for community impactful businesses? And when you meet them or when you have events with them, what do you see? What commonalities that you see among these community impact businesses and challenges for them to really stand out and be investable?
Oh, I love that question. So short answer, and I'll elaborate more on it. So for example, when we're looking at the community impact, we're trying to understand, it's not just about, yes, job creation is important, right? Hiring diverse people from the community is important. But essentially what we're trying to do as a larger firm is how are you leveraging your business to actually enact systematic change? That's the key. So for example, let's say if we are investing in a clean tech company, the community impact that we're going to look for there is, are you installing your EV charging stations in underserved communities? That's very easy to do, right? Like when you think about it. But then secondly, sometimes the answers might not be that evident. What happens if you're actually installing those chargers maybe at multifamily structures? Those are the things that we're looking for because now you're really at scale, right? So those are examples. And then secondly, what are the challenges? We're in a very unique landscape right now, I think, just in the world of impact investing with mission-driven finance specifically. We have more interest that we ever imagined from investors. Like that blows my mind. But I think, again, because at the global scale, there is a demand from the marketplace that investors are held accountable to ESG standards. That's what it comes down to. So for instance, right now, as a result of having so many successful entrepreneurs in our portfolio, we're expanding like massively across California, right? Because we can't keep up with the demand, not from the entrepreneurs, from the investors, because they had such good success in the beginning. They're like, we want more of these. So I think those challenges are morphing into opportunities now. It really is the triple bottom line. It's no longer the bottom line, But we should stay connected because I think this is it's really exciting, especially if you're in that space.
Thank you.
I saw a hand up over here.
The gentleman in the glasses.
Thank you. My name is Henry Justino. I'm a pediatric cardiologist and founder of a company that's making medical device, better heart valves for children who suffer from congenital heart disease. And we already are quite advanced. We've already done a lot of benchtop testing. We've already done animal studies to show that the valve works well. We have communication with FDA. Already clear path to a clinical trial that we would like to start next year. We've been quite successful at grants as well. We have phase 1 SCTR, phase 2 SBIR. We have a phase 2B grant cooking that we hope to get funded. So the question is now, how do we get to the next step where we would like to meet with investors that are interested in this kind of mission-based investing, because it is a pediatric device, so it's a smaller market than adult medical devices, but it can be tremendously impactful for those kids who right now require 3, 4, 5 open heart surgeries every few years as they're growing up. And we can provide a solution that's a catheter-based procedure that going through the groin, they go home the next day, and really have a much better quality of life. So I'd love to be connected with the right kind of investors who would back this.
Wow. Yeah, what a great company you have, and what a great deed to the world you're doing, my friend. Right away, I tell you that even though Founders First is no pre-revenue investors, but I will give you my business card, and I will start to make phone calls for you, to see, and I'm sure you do too, When we found people like you, company like you, we start to look around who is your perfect match. And in this moment, you have to be with investors that knows about medical device, that knows about that. where we get the money, all the investment firm with the is for the family offices, institutional investors. So when they commit the dollars, they say, I'm ready to give you 10 million or so, whatever the check it is, but I want my money to be invested in this field. And some of them say, I want to impact the health, and that's what you have to be looking for. And I will, for sure, see if I know someone, I might go directly to you. Yeah.
Did you want to? No, I think Julio.
Sure.
Julio.
Yeah.
Right ahead.
Fantastic, amazing progress. A lot of the value inflection points you've described really are around the science, the technology. My questions would be, what are you doing on the commercial side? Do you have traction? Are you going out? Are you talking to hospitals out there, right? The St. Jude's of the world, Cedars-Sinai, trying to build some traction with them, because even when it's not a big market, a lot of them will adopt these technologies. So if you are having traction, you're able to show some pilots and potentially even some revenue. And I think at this stage, it's really just making sure you have a team, right? You're thinking about how do you grow and scale this, from the manufacturing standpoint and everything. And you're putting that team together, and you're going and building your scientific advisory board, and business advisory board. Just like you did with this panel in 20 seconds, great job on pitch, by the way.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You'll start to find people want to help you. They want to help successful people, and you're certainly doing a great thing too.
Yeah.
So you may get some traction from those initial advisors to actually become investors. And from there, it's like, what are their networks and how can you tap into that? There are a lot of angel groups who are, physicians who want to back these kinds of technologies. The Chemical Angel Network is a great example. I know the folks up at Cove are very active, and even lead deals here in Southern California that can be, potentially effective for you. And start there is my suggestion, and then see where that goes. If you want to, as a founding team, you want to think about what an exit might look like. Do you want to ring the bell on stock exchange and build a public company, right? Or do you want to find someone like a Medtronic who could potentially grow and scale this, right? I think you figure out what the market looks like, and then figure out how you play in the market based on that. If it's a small, $50 million revenue business, it may be a great lifestyle business, right? But if you can figure out how does this technology go from being just a product to a platform, you might be able to build a venture scale company. So things to think about as you build it.
Yeah, thank you. A quick response. Certainly from a hospital standpoint, we have a lot of enthusiasm from, key opinion leaders in the field that, would definitely want to use this. From the strategics like Medtronic and Abbott and Edwards and all that, we met with all of them under NDA, and they're all very excited about this, but they have been burned in the past by very early stage investments in companies that were very, early and then didn't pan out. So more and more of them are becoming cautious and want to invest after human data is obtained. So only after clinical trial will they make a strategic investment. So that's where we're in that gap now, where we need the funding to get to the human data. And once we have that, I think we will be off to the races. The likelihood will be an acquisition by one of those strategics.
Yeah, and take a look at the patient advocacy groups too. A lot of them will go and actually create funding opportunities where they will pay for the patients to have access to these kinds of technologies in the small patient population.
Perfect. We got time for one more question. This gentleman right here.
Thank you. So my name is Chuang Quan, and the field I'm specifically working in is AI technology. So I'm happy to connect if anybody has similar interest. So my first question is, you just mentioned that it's better to connect and to be invested with some investors that know your industry. What if I just happen to have a chance or opportunity with someone who doesn't know so much about the industry, but is interested in the company? What are the barriers to overcome, and whether you think it is possible to overcome, or should I just say no to all of such situations? Yeah.
Take the money and run. I'm just kidding.
Take the money.
Yeah, no. If someone is interested in your product or service already and is not in your industry, of course you say yes. No kidding. You sit down and you start to explain. The only situation what I was mentioning is, in this case, the negotiation, because he don't know his EU industry, they might charge you more for the money because he might see more risk in you in your product or in your service. That is the only thing. But no, my first answer is if he is interested in invest and you think it's okay what he's expecting in return, do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for the answer. So the issue I can see, as you mentioned, is that they might have like expectations that's like not so because they don't have so much understanding of the industry. So there might be something over there. Do you think for those areas, do you have like any recommendation of how to overcome those barriers in communication within that field?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I come from the other side of town, so when I see $100 bill on the ground, I don't necessarily pick it up right away. I sometimes if it's too easy, we in the industry call someone who doesn't have that technical background dumb money, right? And dumb money isn't really a negative thing to say. It's just they don't have that industry background, that technical background to really understand it. If they're interested because you're so inspirational and you've really done your job to show that you're doing the work to de-risk the company and make it successful, right? That's great. But sometimes you maybe don't have your act together, but they're still saying yes. And so is that quick yes, I think is the way you want to work with that is do your own due diligence, right? Who's this other person on the other side of the table? What's their background? Try and talk to other portfolio CEOs they may have invested in and ask them, hey, how did they add value to your company outside of the capital? When, as an investor, what is their interaction, their relationship like, right? Sometimes you may get investors who put money in you, especially at the early stage, these angels, and the expectations are unaligned, right? Some angels, especially here in town, may believe that as an early stage company, you can be profitable and throw a dividend to them in 3 years, right? And so those ones are going to be the ones that aren't necessarily the easiest to manage, right? In your early days, you want to be doing monthly, investor updates, maybe quarterly as you get to the A and B round. They may be the ones calling you every week. How are we doing? Are we profitable? When am I going to see my $100,000 back, right? And so those are the ones. Sometimes the easy money is often inversely proportional to how much of a boss they're going to be to you, right? And I want you to think about your investors kind of like that. We're entrepreneurs. A lot of us want to be independently wealthy. We want to be our own boss, but you have to understand the minute you set investor checks, they're your bosses. Those are your shareholders. Those are your stakeholders. And you want to make sure you're aligned with the expectations, right? What are the outcomes? What is your relationship? What kind of cadence are you going to have communicating important information on how the company is succeeding or not succeeding, right? So think about that as well, because we all think about the communications meaning we're growing, and we're good. But sometimes you gotta have bad news. My co-founder left, right? My biggest contract didn't renew, right? All of those things. So you need to think about that as well when you're taking on investors, whether it's easy or hard.
Okay, gotcha. I see we have one burning question left.
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
So, is there, just because everyone, I want to give everyone a chance, and maybe you already asked a question. Does anybody have a question that didn't get asked?
Can I ask a question? Can you hear me? I'm Nikolai. I'm also a founder. I founded a company which had genetic solution for mosquito control. And I'm in the same situation, maybe I was creating a valve for a child heart. All the surgeons will be probably against that device because there will be fewer surgeries for them, right? And I'm also in the same place where it's a little bit regulation and you need capital to go through the regulation. So it will take a while until we'll bring revenues. And it's very hard to find an investor who understands this space because this space doesn't exist. We're the first product because everything else is service. Somebody comes with pesticide. And dumb money, it's dumb, but it also sounds like maybe it's impact investment. It's kind of almost by default is a dumb money, right? They want to have impact, they invest money, probably it's not going to return. maybe they'll just be, the name will be attached with that investment. We got the grant from Gates Foundation, we're lucky. We probably will get more money, but I kind of don't know how I can convince investors to invest money in something like our company. Any advice would be very useful. I'm kind of very skeptical about easy money, given especially economic situation, like everybody give impression that it's so easy to invest money, and especially all investors really want to seed money, but reality is it's not. Money giving some percentage sitting in the bank quietly, and you really have to leave that percentage now. So it's a much more tougher situation right now.
If I heard correctly, you mentioned that you guys receive an investment from a foundation, right?
Commercial grant.
A commercial grant, okay. So I would say, the way that I would advise or recommend, just because again, from previous experience with our portfolio companies, when you have the moment that you have an investment from someone like that, I would say leverage that to attract money that aligns with that specific mission. Try to understand like what specifically attracted this investor that allow them to feel comfortable to even deploy that capital to us, like build from that, right? Even if an investor is not necessarily understanding what you're adding, maybe that's not the right type of investors to be speaking with. Even if you guys are like brand new, it's like just trying to understand, going back to your value proposition, like who would be interested in your value proposition at the end of the day, right? So I think that's a good way to look at it. Again, the early money that you get in, anchor that, like that's how you start, or even if they have their own networks, right? Like trying to tap into that specific network as well. Does that make sense, or not to tell me, because I think.
No, I mean,
no, makes sense.
Melinda Gates already gave us commercial grant with some milestones to get commercial funding. Giving a grant was milestones, but it's not sufficient for commercial investment. We submitted 2 EPA applications, one of them is nearly approved. It's still not enough for commercial investment. I kind of don't know. I just have to deal with angel investors now and just really try to build that relationship. But it takes, I would say, months really to build relationships like that.
Even a year or two, because I've seen, I've worked with entrepreneurs that maybe we didn't invest till like three years later, right? So I would say if you're getting that money though from the Melinda Gates Foundation, that's a big deal. So you have to be able to build off of that. Like foundation dollars are not easy to access. So there's something there that needs to be uncovered, and that's where you amplify that. I think that's the opportunity. Because if someone comes to me and they tell me they got money from the Melinda Gates Foundation, even as an angel investor, when I'm not wearing my hat from like saying I'm from mission-driven finance, I'm gonna say there's something there that foundation got into, because even my firm is very difficult for us to access those foundation dollars. So there's something there.
I'm just,
And
I'm
know
saying
what it is.
I have no problem exciting investors. I have a problem because it's very hard to assess market size. In reality, it's like market some way is not created for this type of product. It doesn't exist. You can only grab some percentage of mosquito control districts, which is government. Nobody wants to work with government. I mean, like that's the bottom line. So it's like it's just kind of very strange. And we'll just basically write grants and hopefully get more money, but I just kind of become more and more
Let me ask a quick question. Are you connected with UCSD? Are you a part?
Yeah.
So I want to actually give Liesl an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's available. Thank you. What's available with the Office of Innovation and Commercialization house here at the Design and Innovation Building, the DIB. I'll just highlight a little bit. We just wrote another grant. We won it, and it's the Venture Catalyst program. And the focus with that is we're helping. It's funded through the EDA, and it's funding to help get entrepreneurs to scale in their approach to pitch to the right, and pitch and match and pitch to the right investor through intense coaching, and that's going to be opening up to the masses soon. But I would say you need to be plugged in to what we're offering here. So I want to kick it off to Liesl to introduce herself and the programs that are available here. And
Thank
then
you,
we'll wrap.
Christiana, thank you. So we're not gonna get to here to applaud everyone there, but I do want to say, Greg introduced at the top, that this Innovation at the Edge program is brought to you by the Office of Innovation and Commercialization, which Christiana said is housed in the Design and Innovation Building, where you're sitting. We also run the innovation.ucsd.edu website, which is really where you can find all sorts of resources. It lets you know how to connect with all the innovation centers on campus. There are so many programs available to you, including online programs, and then this program, which runs monthly, we alternate Meet the VC with Innovation at the Edge on topics of importance. But programs as well, we have industry office hours every week on the 4th floor where we invite industry guests to come in and offer free mentorship. We have had law firms, we have had the VCs, we have had patent attorneys, we have had all sorts of industry guests coming in, and you can sign up, it's free. Sign up for those free mentor hours on the 4th floor. That's on our website. In addition, we have a podcast studio on the 4th floor that is free for anyone on this San Diego campus. So if you want to get a podcast together as part of your pitch or as part of your company, then you just reserve and record. That's also free. So we have a lot of free, so everything is free. But check out our website to see what kind of programs are right for you, where you're at in your innovation journey. And there are postcards, I know Greg mentioned this, we've got some postcards you can take with the QR code that drives you to our website and we'll give you more information. Now, I'm actually going to say thank you all for coming, but I'm going to turn it back to Christiana so that she can properly thank all of our amazing guests on this panel today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you. All right, so again, make sure you visit the table out front before heading out so that you stay connected. I want to say thank you to our panelists for taking time out of you all's schedule. I know how busy you all, I really know how busy you all are. So for you all to say yes, to come out today and participate in this much needed conversation, we don't take it lightly, so I just want to say thank you. And please give them a round of applause. You all are more than welcome to connect with them, but please understand they have been talking a lot, so please, be mindful of that. And if you also want to stay connected, we have all of you all's email as long as you registered. We have all of you all's emails, so we'll be able to share follow-up via email. If you did not register and you popped in, we'd love to have you, but we would ask that you put your name. You're gonna. Oh, there's something else we're gonna announce. Go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot to say this, but this event was live streamed. So if you missed any of these, anything from this conversation, it is actually stored on our YouTube channel, and you can go back and rewatch this panel and listen to those answers again. Because I know there was a lot of amazing information, and I saw some of you frantically writing things down. You can go back to our YouTube channel and watch this panel again and take notes as much as you want. Sorry.
Well, we appreciate you, Lisa. So again, thank you all for coming out and engaging us. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you come out again for our next event. Have a blessed
Thank you.
Thank you all for